Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The red planet does attract. It does beckon mankind, and the moon seems to have fallen by the wayside. But before I take up NASA's rover landing, let me tell you something very interesting about this new NASA rover that landed on moon just 4 days back. Perseverance, the name as it is. It landed last week, last Thursday, 4 days back. And would you believe that this $2.4 billion vehicle, $2.4 billion, that was the cost to build and launch this rover to go and land in Mars and get the information. But are you also aware that if you have a old smartphone, it will be more powerful than this rover is, at least as far as the computer configuration is concerned. It is powered by an old chipset that gives it about the same processing power as a 1998 Power Mac. Wow. More specifically, it's packing 256 MB of RAM and 2 GB of storage with 200 megahertz processor. Original Apple Watch has more RAM, 512, 8 GB of storage, and 520 megahertz processor. So if the computer power is concerned, Rover has less than half of the original Apple Watch. But then the computer components are approved for maximum reliability. And it has to be that because the nearest Apple store is millions of miles away if something happens to that. Then there's a helicopter on board Perseverance called the Flying Snapdragon. This is Quadriculum Snapdragon 801, though it's slated to be the first drone to take flight on the red planet. The chipset, wow, again, is found in mid 2010s era smartphones like Samsung Galaxy S5, LG G3, HTC One M8. That means the smartphone in your pocket is more powerful than the Mars rovers and the helicopter. But you don't have a team of the world's smartest people helping you explore that planet. The rover's processor is a bit archaic, and tools it's carrying are not. Imagine it. Processor may be old, but there are 23 cameras, including those used for landing, navigation, and mineral analysis. Now, going to the Mars is a non trivial thing since both Mars and the Earth are the planets that revolve around the Sun and hence in constant motion relative to each other. Earth, our planet, and Mars are closest distance relative to each other every 26 months. And that's the time when we send our spacecraft to the Mars. So this is the period when we are nearest to the Mars. And from 1960 onwards, every 2 years, we have been sending missions to the Mars, successful, not successful. And between 1976 and 1992, Many launch windows were left unutilized because we didn't have the resources to send. But possibly never before in the history have three space agencies headed to Mars in a single launch window. And never in history have so many space agencies simultaneously operated a mission to Mars. There are currently 10 spacecrafts from five different space agencies: USA, European Union, India, China, and United Arab Emirates, which are either orbiting Mars or on ground on Mars. Two more rovers, Perseverance and China's Tianwen 1, landed on the Mars on February 18, and one would land in May. That's the Chinese. China, NASA has a lander, Mars Oversight, a rover, Curiosity, and three orbiters. India has one orbiter, European Union has two orbiters, and China and UAE will have orbiter each. Now, this flotilla of missions represents the spread of planetary exploration in general, and Mars in particular. As we said earlier, this landing on the Perseverance on Mars defines the next couple of decades of the Mars exploration. It's not just a rover mission, let's be very clear about that. It's much more. In the last 3 decades, 30 years, the understanding of Mars has increased manifold. We have come a long way in understanding Mars from the time the first mission was undertaken in the 60s. The Viking missions in the mid 70s carried out first chemical analysis of the soil and four biological tests to detect the biological activities. There was no conclusive evidence. In 1984, a study showed that the rare gases over there resembled the gases here on the Earth, like xenon, krypton, neon, and argon. And this discovery provided a way for the people to study and think, is it possible to have life over there? And then, till recently, Mars was considered to be a desert, a dry planet. But in 2001, the gamma rays on board Mars Odyssey showed presence of hydrogen and oxygen. And there was ambiguity. Hydrogen can be part of water, but it can be compound of other organic compounds as well. But then it was seen that there has been ice on the land. Now, Curiosity rover carries an instrument called and that is sample analysis at Mars. That means the analysis of the minerals, dust particles, and everything will be done there rather than bring those rocks here and do the analysis. There's a mass spectrometer that can measure not only the elements, but isotopes as well. And that is what makes this landing all the more important. It is not known how these organics form on the Mars. Let's be very clear. There's a mystery, and this mystery lends a certain charm to the Mars. But it's quite possible that the process of formation of organic material on Mars may be inanimate. But there is a fascinating possibility that they could be associated with life. And that is what is the mystery. Is there a life? Now, first, there are two primary reasons to be considered. Mars is a planet where life may have evolved in the past. We know that it evolved 3.8 billion years back. 3.8 billion back, life started on Earth. Conditions on early Mars, roughly 4 billion back, were very similar to that Earth. So, if life could have evolved on this planet, it could have evolved on Mars also. Mars has thick atmosphere, enable the stability of water on Mars. So, because of the similarity, the possibility, if not of the complete life, at least of the microscopic life, are there. Secondly, we can go to moon and come back. We can go to Mercury, Venus, quite possible. But the interplanetary travel and migration is possible today only on Mars. It's the only planet that you can visit or inhabit for a long term. Venus and Mercury have extreme temperatures. The average temperature is greater than 400 degrees Celsius. It's hotter than a cooking oven. You'll be roasted, grilled, baked, all in one. And all planets in the outer solar system, starting with Jupiter, are made of gas, not silicates, nor rocks, and are very cold. So some are very hot, others are very cold, and all are gases. Mars is comparatively similar to our mother planet, that's the Earth. It is hospitable as far as the term of temperature concerned. Approximately range of temperature is 20 degrees Celsius at the equator to minus 125 degree at the poles. So you can stay 20 degree. It's a comfortable stay. So mission of the Perseverance on Mars is to address the critical themes around Mars, the search for life, the possibility of life, and the probability of sending a human mission to that planet. Is there life on Mars? Is the first step has been taken by Perseverance, and it's going to be a multi-step project to bring samples back from Mars. The study of the returned samples will provide a specific answer whether we can go and live there. At the first step, Perseverance will collect rocks and soil samples. Now, this is a process that's going to be undertaken, and they shall be taken in 43 tubes. Each tube shall be the size of a cigar. The samples will be collected, canisters would be sealed and left on the ground there. The second step would be for a Mars rover, and that is being provided by the European Space Agency, to land, drive, and collect all those 43 samples from different locations and bring them to lander. Then the fetch rover will transfer the canisters to the ascent vehicle, and the Mars ascent vehicle will meet with orbiter, and then the orbiter will carry the samples back to Earth. So this three-step process will enable us to get the samples without any contamination. That's the most important part. So this long-term project is MSR, Mars Sample Return. And it will revolutionize our comprehension, our understanding, our thought of Mars. And if successfully executed, we'll have a reasonable answer whether there's microscopic life over there. Now, one thing which is missing is the producing oxygen. For a human mission to materialize, the cost needs to be reasonable. Till now, there is no evidence that oxygen is there. Hydrogen is there, water is there, but oxygen per se, separately, is it there? Or would it have to be produced? So, it is also being thought that the technology and infrastructure to produce and manufacture oxygen on Mars should be available. It should be, and then it should be able. We should be able to produce oxygen from the material available on the Mars, the raw material over there. You cannot take the raw material from the Earth. So, without manufacturing oxygen in a very cheap manner, economical manner, and that's where the Elon Musk comes in. He says that oxygen production plan will be part of the commercial transportation to Mars. So Perseverance is carrying an instrument and it's called MOXIE. MOXIE is Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment. This would use 300 watt of power to produce 10 grams of oxygen. And how they would do it? They'll use the carbon dioxide available there. Then they are having RIMFAX, radar image for Mars surface experiment. This will give high resolution mapping of the underground water. So while one instrument will be looking for subsurface water, the other will be looking for underground water because water is the most important thing. Then there is a small helicopter, as I said, it's a small drone and the technology demonstration experiment whether the helicopters can fly in climatic conditions, atmospheric conditions of Mars or not. The low density of atmosphere on Mars makes the possibility of flying a helicopter very low. But then the long distance transportation on Mars has to rely on vehicles that fly on rocket engines. Overall, this landing is revolutionary because it's going to provide us answers to hundreds of questions that plague us. And then we'll be able to take a firm decision whether we can really go live there or be there for a longer period. We are perhaps not there. Maybe it might take a few decades, at least a couple of decades, but the two milestones have been taken, completed. A human mission to Mars and decisive answer to the question whether Mars harbored at any stage or still harbors any evidence of life. Perseverance is likely to provide us the significant insight on both the questions. And that is where the views and the possibility, the practicability of perseverance lie. Identification of life, past, present, availability of oxygen, availability of groundwater, and underground water. These things being answered, we know climate is quite congenial. Who knows that in very near future, maybe a couple of decades, travel to Mars may be like the way travel to different continents used to be, say about 50 years back, or even 100 years back, possibly. So that possibility would show that the world, not only the Earth is one, but even the interplanetary system is an integrated whole. Let's hope for the best. Who knows? what might happen. Anything is possible. Thank you.